Morning everybody, welcome to Stockradar Stocks on the Move. My name is Richard Lee, I'm stockradar.com.au website for you. Today's date is the 27th of April 23. I have one of my favourite t-shirts on, The Price Never Lies. It's what guides me, what gives me direction, it helps me all the time, it gives me all my inside information, it gives me everything I need. It's the price and it doesn't lie to me, which is a fantastic thing in this world. The heading today, stocks going up. Well, one of my first premises is I only buy stocks that are going up, and we'll talk about a bit about that later on as we go through trading tactics. But for now, we're going to get straight into the trend intensity and see exactly what the top 10 stocks are for this week. Okay, Boral still kicking high. BlueScope, interesting stock this week. It's had a bit of a pressure this week. We're going to see where we lie with that one. Bramble, CSR, Steadfast, Washington Soul Patterson, Webjet, Wesfarmers, WiseTech, and of course Chalice Mining, which you can see right there, which is kicking higher still, behaving pretty well. Can it get to R1? Well, we don't know, but we're going to ride it as hard as we can and see if we can get it to that level. Okay, some trading tactics this week. I'm talking about first premises when we build our trade plan. Very, very important to start with those first premises to keep it simple and clear, and how important they are. Okay, so let's get into some stocks now. Firstly, let's get to some overseas markets. The Dow Jones, okay, we're seeing this picture again. We've got this lower high here, another lower high, another lower high. It's struggling. We are at the highs, remember that. And the pressure really is down now. Not like our market, we're still up a little bit at the moment, but for the moment this one is down. There's some mixed volume here, there's some good support here that's pushed the market high, but it hasn't been able to push it through resistance. And momentum is just positive, so we're sort of like in a just situation, but we're not quite. But I'm not particularly liking the look of that this week, but we'll see what happens at the end of the week and see where it leads us. But the main pressure is down there. The more positive ones, S&P, we're sitting below some big resistance. We've got some great volumes down here that have been pushing the market higher towards these resistance levels, but we can't seem to get them through at the moment, and there's a little bit more confidence. We need a breakthrough there, otherwise we're going to see a fallback. Firstly to this level here, then back to 3583. So that'll be a trading range, which is not unusual. But this will stand as our market line in the sand to get through to see if we can have a shot at those highs. Okay, the volume's been pretty good here, as I said before, pushing it high, hasn't got it through yet. Momentum's just positive, so it's sort of okay, but we're really, again, just almost, but not quite there. And the Nasdaq, similar picture to the S&P. It's got a big resistance head above it. It's trying high. We've got a high low here, which is good. We've got some reasonable volume, but we still aren't through yet. So we just have to wait. And again, the momentum is going a bit like the other ones, just turning positive. So. But theoretically, the prices when I want to look at the index, whatever it might be, it's got to get through R1 before I'm really going to get excited about anything at the moment. Okay, so that's where the indices lie. Just be careful at the moment. We're in a precarious situation. Gold. Now, it's also doing a double take. It's having another go. It's not shying away from this gold, from this height around 2000. It's had a little bit of selling come into it, but the price is holding up incredibly well there. So we've got some good volume down here, reasonably positive momentum above the average. So all things are pretty good here. If I was to run a trend intensity over it, it might get an 8 or a 9. So gold for the moment is certainly a hold for the moment. We have a couple of gold stocks which we got into recently, and we'll hang on to those for the moment. Okay, copper. Now, I'm going to look a little bit at BHP a bit later on, but we're sort of starting to see this copper price now. If I just blow this up a little bit more here, just so you can get a slightly better look, we can see this struggle city up here. Again, we've got this lower high here, which is a worry, below resistance. We've got another lower high here. It's struggled around here for a month or two, trying to hold up. Bit of two-way business down here. This was just positive, but all of a sudden now we're getting a fallback here. Not a lot of volume in it yet. The week hasn't finished. This is falling a bit flat. So is copper failing? Are we going to be looking for S2? Quite possibly, I think, at the moment, because this pressure is certainly down. It tried to have a rally. It hasn't done it. It's now going to try the downside. Okay, over to you, buyers. See if you can hold this up and run it higher. But at the moment, it looks like the pressure is down for copper. Okay, so the other one we've got is Brent crude. The other commodity, again, bit of pressure going on down here as well. We can just see this stock this commodity here. It's struggled at the highs up there. We've had this downward pressure the whole time. Lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs again. Even after that little ramp up from the Saudi cutting some output, hasn't really done much for this commodity. And again, we're looking for pressure on the downside here. So it's not looking all that flash on the commodity side of things, and gold is the one that's shining at the moment. Okay, so that's where we are with that. The indices struggle, so we've got to be a little bit careful at the moment, and we've got to be very careful with our stock selection, but there are stocks running, and we'll talk about those a bit later on, okay? Now, to our market again, don't forget we are above a major high. Okay, we are above a major high, so we've got to be very careful. Now, we've had some good rallies here, but if we make another lower high here, we're not looking so good. We're going to come back to this area down here around about 7,000, and then below there 6,400. So, do we stay in this range, or do we break up? Well, for the moment, we're not really getting much of a sign that we are going to break up, because we sort of had a good push here, and this should have gone through. It hasn't. It's come back quite a long way, and again here we're struggling to make those highs again. So the picture isn't that fantastic, and that's probably pretty true across the board. The leaders dominate this index. You know, the banks, BHP, Rio, and they're all struggling at the moment. So don't worry about those ones, because that's a 20 stock index, really, although it covers 200 stocks. We want to look outside those other 180 stocks, 140 stocks we actually look at when we look at 160. But there's a lot of stocks out there that are doing well. As you saw on the front page, whether it be Chalice Mining, Boral, whatever it is, they are stocks that are doing very well. Okay, so that is the ASX 200. We'll just now go and have a quick look at where we are with portfolios. The stock pick update, we are up 2 stocks this week to 52 of 182. Okay, so that's 46 stocks of 160 and 6 ETFs of 22. So 46 of 160 is not a huge amount, but you know, there's still plenty there. There is 46 stocks that are going up, and that's what we're interested in. So keep an eye on those stocks, because there's some money to be made there. Portfolio update. This is up to date to last Friday. Okay, our conservatives is pretty flat at 8.1. Our energizers is kicking high at 17.2. It's 100% equities. All the energizer portfolios are all full. Okay, strangely enough, our market's at its highs, but these are all full. But these are full of stocks that aren't necessarily in that top 10. They're not banks. There's not BHP. There's not Rio. There's not Woodside. All those stocks are not in any of those portfolios. But there are plenty of stocks that are going up. So they're doing pretty well here. The recent portfolios are still both up around 10, 11%, which is good. The 10 stocks at 12.9, slightly safer, less volatile portfolio, and the really aggressive 17.2, the Energizer 5, since inception, has done incredibly well. Okay, so that's the portfolio update for that. So that's the ASX 200, that's the major indices. Now we can have a look at some nitty gritty and get into some stocks. Okay. This week, well, are the builders coming? Well, we're going to look at a couple of builders today. We know what Boral's doing. We know what CSR's doing. There's a couple of other ones in there. Last week, we covered a few stocks there that were interesting. You know, Stockland's doing a bit better this week. Wesfarmers is slowly climbing. Evolution's doing a little bit better with the gold price support. So there's some good stocks there. This week, we're going to take a look at, firstly, our first stock is Aristocrat. I have been looking at it a little bit lately, because I think we've got a pretty good opportunity here to get into this stock at some stage. As I said before, we did have a failed attempt earlier this year to get into this one, or late last year, and it failed miserably, so we were chopped out of that one pretty quickly. And now we're back up here again. We're above the average. Volume is middling, nothing really to get too excited about, and momentum's turning positive. So the trend intensity index is at +1. Really, this is the area here, 1, 2, 3, 3 big highs we've got to get through here, and we're starting to push pretty hard at it. So we've got a good downtrend, accumulation phase. What happens next is the uptrend phase. So we're in that right sort of spot at the moment for this thing to take off, but we'll just have to actually wait for the break. Did have a 36% correction, which was pretty good from the highs. And that was pretty sharp fall, that one. But this accumulation has been looking pretty good, pretty solid down here at S1, and now we've got a higher low here at $35. Okay, so keep your eye on our Aristocrat. Hasn't broken yet. Watch the trading centre on Stockradar to give you an idea on that. Okay, my other leader I'm going to look at is BHP. Now, this one stock has struggled for some time. And more recently, it has struggled again. It did make a new high up here and has failed pretty badly. And again, the pressure here is really coming from coppers and oil. They're not doing that well. Iron ore's come off a bit from the highs, still looking like a pretty good commodity. It's going to have plenty of demand as the Chinese economy recovers. But the price itself has come down from 50 down to around $42, $43, okay? And it's hanging around there this week. Volume's pretty hard to read here. I'll just try and squeeze that big one up. But we can see it's fairly sort of middling. There's lots of green bars, red bars here. It's uncertain, and I really think that's what BHP shareholders are looking at this one. It's uncertain. The trend intensity is -3. It failed up here. This is quite a long-term trading range high, really up around this $45, $50. So we're having a little bit of trouble here, which is not surprising. So we're neutral on this stock now. We just wait and see what happens and see where it goes, and we wait for either a new high or a trend reversal to occur. Okay, so possibly coming back to S2. Well, S1's got a break first, but that's the bottom of the trading range, and there's some very, very good support down there for BHP, as we can see there from the long term. Okay, so that's BHP at the moment. The other stocks that you're looking at, Fortescue, Woodside is there. They're all struggling. Rio, they're all struggling. Why are they struggling? Because copper and oil probably, and the iron ore price a little bit easier. Again, some of the other leading stocks you might want to take a look at yourself. I'm not going to cover them today. They're starting to look interesting at the moment. I would look at Transurban, I would look at CSL, and I would look at Coles. All approaching resistance. They've got to get through for anything to really excite us. But, there's certain things that go on your watch file. You watch how the build-up goes, you build your evidence, and then you get your trigger. So we just have to be patient to let all these things develop the way they should do. But, if some of those leaders started to take off, then we might get a bit more oomph on the index. But at the moment, they haven't done yet, so we'll just have to wait a bit longer to see what happens there. Okay, now... I talked a little bit about the builders before. And what do we make of them at the moment? Well, where are we in the construction side, the building products side? It's all a little bit of chaos out there at the moment, so it makes it really hard. But, we've got Fletcher Building is down. Amcor's not doing that well. New Farm's not doing that well. These are all in the same sector. Brickworks turned neutral not long ago. It's recovered really well, but it needs to break that high that it's got at the moment before it's going to run again. And Reliance Worldwide, certainly not yet. It's down and out at the moment. But two other stocks that we are looking at. Firstly is JHX, which is James Hardie. And it's a bit of a, it almost looks a bit like Aristocrat. It's had a big uptrend, a big correction. It's gone into an accumulation phase. Not related to stocks, but this is the behaviour of stocks. This is what they do. So we've got uptrend, distribution, downtrend, accumulation, uptrend. So we're waiting patiently. The buyer-seller balance is turning here. You can see how it's stopped. It rallies, it comes back, tests that low again, supported pretty well there, and it's come up again and now made a higher low. So we're just getting that slow shift from sellers to buyers. So we've got to be alert to this, because James Hardie, although it doesn't yield much, is probably quite a good stock, a growth stock to hold on to. Trend intensity is -3 at the moment. This is still below 0. It's just turning above the average. I mean, you can just see it's just trying to get above here at the moment, trying to turn a picture here, but we don't have it. R1 really is the main blocker there. We've got plenty of highs across here. That's probably really the trigger point we're looking for. So again, keep an eye on the trading centre for when that breaks. If it breaks, it is down 52% from the highs. Okay, so that's a big move. Don't forget it, and it's now finding some very good support. So certainly one worth watching, James Hardie. And we know the leader of the sector. Once again, we had a great run on this one a couple of years ago for Boral, and it's had a giant collapse since we've seen the change of ownership there. But if we look at the chart now, it's not too bad. It's looking very good. Again, we've got the downtrend here. We've got a sort of this is a big drop here, but this is sort of the lower high, this sort of downtrend price action. We've now got a somewhat sideways action where we're getting this low here, no new low. Okay, then we get a break of this little downtrend line. Okay, sorry. Then we get a break of the moving average, and then we get a break of the horizontal line there. So that's those three things that I look for often, the downtrend line, the moving average, and the horizontal resistance point. So that gives us a confirmed trend reversal at around here. Okay, now we get the trend starting to develop. It comes back, makes a new high low again, Trends, okay, high highs, high lows defines a trend. So we're getting high highs and high lows again for Boral, and that's an exciting thing. The trend intensity rating is 10. So, it's looking pretty good, this stock. Volume's a bit harder to read. It's become a little bit thinner now that Stokes owns this stock, but we can see some good volume on the rally here. Again, starting to appear again. Bit of selling here, bit of a test, which is always happening, but momentum is good. It's above the average. Trend intensity rating is 10 for Boral, so that's probably got plenty left in the tank, I would have thought there. But we just follow up with a trailing stop and take what chunk we can out of the move up. Okay, so that's Boral. And you might want to have a look at CSR, which is another one we hold, REH and Aurora. So they're three other stocks you might want to have a look at. So they're of the new high, but both of those ones. So many TR trend reversals we've had, and lots of build-ups, which are starting to break now. It's a really strange market, this one, because we're getting some new highs, we're getting some trend reversals. It's all everything's out of kilter at the moment. But we're just going to follow what we see and what we get. Okay, so BlueScope Steel, we're going to have a look at now. It has, again, let's just try and ignore this week, although we can't really, but just for the purposes of analysis here, we've got our downtrend line here, we've got our area here where our average is, our downtrend line, our horizontal support line. That's the 3 bits of evidence that we really need to give us a confirmed trend change, which it does when it breaks through here, okay? And then we get a high, a higher low, a new high, a higher low, okay? So we're developing well. This week is a test. We've got some selling that's been here. Volume hasn't been too high this week. Momentum's positive and it's above the average. All markets go up and down, okay? Now, we don't know where this finishes. If it finishes up near the high this week, then that bar's not going to look so bad. So we need this red bar to finish before we really make any decision on this. This doesn't look so flash because it's down, it's what we call an outside week, a higher high and a lower low than the previous week, which would suggest maybe it's going to come down. But we haven't finished the week yet. So we're going to wait. But it still looks like a very solid picture, this BlueScope Steel chart. So I'll be a little bit surprised, but that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I'll be a little bit surprised. It doesn't matter too much if it does break down. But we'll just keep an eye on it. We've got to have our stop losses in place. We've got a confirmed trend change. The market looks okay. Trend intensity is fine. So we just wait till Friday, look at the price, look at our stop, and make the decision then. It's very clear, easy, and simple. Okay, so that's BlueScope Steel. Good build-ups. I looked at a stock last week called AGL, which you may know or may not. It's finally starting to make a bit of a turn. And then when we look at a stock like this one, okay, let me just try and get all this in place. Okay, now Orica's come from a long way up here. It's come down. We had a bit of a false start here. I think we might have even traded a little break here. It fell flat, so we got out of it. But we're now getting a larger sign of a trend reversal pattern occurring down here. And that's a very good sign because that's what we want to see. So we've got a higher low here, which is good. And now we're waiting for a higher high above this level to give us an idea that this stock is going to start rallying towards $24 or to R1. Trend intensity rating is neutral at +1, so we're getting the turn. We've got the stock starting to trade above the average. Momentum has started to turn positive, building support down here. It's not a lot on the volume again, although if we have a look here, let me just squeeze it a little bit brighter. We can see some reasonable buying coming in here as well as selling. So we're sort of in a mixed picture, which is so typical of a bottom anyway. Indecisiveness, uncertainty. When you get a break of a level like this, all of a sudden markets get confident and the sellers start to reverse their positions, the buyers get more confident, and you get that uptrend flavour which builds. So we're building towards that at the moment, but it just hasn't got there yet. But keep an eye on Orica. Again, watch the trend intensity, watch the trading centre to get an eye on that one. Okay, now if I'm looking for other stocks like that, I'd look at ARB, big pattern, BRG, which I covered last week, INA, NEC, Net Wealth, okay, Transurban, Ramsay Health, and AGL, which I showed you last week. There's plenty of stocks there to have a look at and plenty of stocks in the trading centre for you to get some signals on. Okay, let's go to new highs now. New highs are always an interesting thing. And again, I'm moving down to the dangerous end again, I know, but we say it as we see it. And Gold Road Resources is interesting because I know the gold price has started to run, and if it runs much higher and then goes through that 2,000 level, then we may have a little bit of interest in this little stock called Gold Road Resources because this here is its high, which is up around 190, and it's having a red hot go. We've got a good trading range in here. We had fall back off the high, it didn't return to the bottom of the trading range, which is a good sign. The buyers came in and bought this earlier. So let's just blow this volume a little bit for you, just so you can see it a bit better. And you can see here, especially this last rally off about 140, we've seen some great volume here. Momentum's been good, it's above the average, so it's going to give itself every chance to break through here. And if gold resources breaks through, then that's a really good sign, and we may get another rally out of here. Again, be very, very careful with your mining stocks, especially these ones that are small. Again, you could possibly halve your exposure and double the width of your the size of your stop. Possibly there's other ways you can do it, but just be careful and make sure you look after your stop and it's in place to protect it if it does break higher and we get a good move on there. So that's Gold Road Resources, certainly worth watching. Now, in the newsletter the last few months, because we've had some stock come off really badly, lost some big leading stocks that come off incredibly huge amounts, 40, 50, 60%. So a lot of downtrodden stocks, when they get like that, they can be often very good buying opportunities, whacking your super fund, long-term view, whatever it might be. But I would always wait for the market to turn before I do that. But some stocks have come down a long way, and I'm looking at one stock here that's come down an awfully long way, suffered a lot of bad press and a lot of it's had a pretty bad run, I felt, after having a very good run for a long time. But it's come down, and if I go right back here, you can see it actually was once an $11 stock, and that big rally that we saw, but now it's come back down. We're now seeing it's from $11, it's now come down to about $2.70. Okay, so if we have a look at this, the downtrend line is coming through here. We're looking for an accumulation pattern. It tried to occur here. It sort of failed a little bit here, but it's actually come back again and trying again to support itself. It's retested this support down here, which is good, at S1, which is about 260. And we just got a bit of volume starting to appear here, which is a little bit of excitement. So we're getting some interest there. Okay, we're certainly going to have to wait for a turn, but this is sort of a level on a good stock where you might want to add something into your long-term fund, because it's at a very low risk area down at these sorts of levels, and we're probably around the low of the market without actually knowing that. But we'd make a bit of a punt on probabilities here, because that's what we're always playing. And for some of these stocks like JHX, like Insignia, that have come down 50, 60%, they're certainly worth watching and keeping an eye on. So Insignia Financial, trend intensity rating is still -7, which is negative. Of course, it's still pretty low in the profile there. But I'm just seeing some of these things here. It tried to hold here, couldn't, and it tried to break here, and it couldn't break. Again, it's retested again. So I'm just getting a picture of some interest in here. This is pretty flat. This is sort of a little bit interesting. It's below the average. Be patient. Keep an eye on it. It's in for your long-term one. A couple of other ones you might want to look at in that base would be Lend-Lease, which has had an awful run. And we know when things have had awful runs that there's sometimes going to be good at buying opportunities. And another one is Zero, which has also come down a long way. It started to rally recently and started to look pretty interesting. Keep an eye on that stock. Okay, two other stocks I want to go through today. One is Nanosonics. Just wanted to sort of, finally, because we've been watching this one for so long, it's sort of worth looking at what's actually happened here. This really area here around $5 was the key area, and as always has been. Okay, so we had a big collapse down here. It fell through here. It's come back and it's banged on the door. Come back and made a higher low. It's banged on the door, failed. Come back and made a higher low, banged on the door. Come back again, banged on the door, and finally we're seeing it break through, and it's now risen to about 550 now. So we're starting to get that sort of impetus. We can start to see the volume picking up, momentum's picking up, moving average. It's starting to trade above the moving average. So things are turning here. Trend intensity rating, I'd have to change that. It would now be positive. It's an out-of-date one, but we're now getting what we want to see. Okay, so we've had to wait. I think I covered this one probably, almost a year ago when I was at the Snow. I can remember the first time, and we talked about this one, and it had this sharp rally here. And I was just saying, the sharp rallies initially, you've got to wait for some validation of that rally, which means a pullback to high low. And that sort of never really happened here. So we just wait on this. It did try here. Okay, we've got a higher low just. And then we rallied to here. It didn't get through. And again, so we've still been waiting patiently for this thing to happen. And finally it does. So because there's lots of stocks, there's always some things going up and some things breaking down. So although we're patient with this stock, there was other opportunities in other stocks as well. But Nanosonics finally looks like it might be going to have a go at R2, which is up around 750. And the signs are pretty good there. So work with your stop and you'll be safe. That's the main thing, okay? Another stock I want to talk about is Mineral Resources. Okay, a fantastic stock with fantastic potential, can be a little bit volatile sometimes. But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this has got lithium. It's starting to make a play in iron ore and all sorts of commodities. It seems to be a fairly vertically integrated company, which is good. But all of a sudden, we've just seen here now, what we're seeing now is that this is now 19% off its highs. So do you hold or do you exit? So we often get put in these situations as what do we do next? Okay, if we're holding this stock, if we're neutral, we're fine. We are neutral. We got out of this a month ago because that's what our system said. But now we're watching it fall further. I just know that there'll be quite a lot of people there who are holding this stock because it has been such a good stock and wondering, what do I do now? And I hate that. What do I do? Do I hold? Do I sell? It's really difficult. So as this is 19% off its highs, do you hold or do you exit? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I have a clear objective and strategy, which makes my decision making very easy. I am neutral, waiting and watching this to fall. What you don't want to happen, and I'm not saying it is going to happen, but Mineral Resources could do a big correction. Now, all stocks do it at some stage, and they all surprise us, and they always come when we least expect it. So just be very, very careful, because if you hold this stock, you want to make sure that you're protected, because if it does come down, it is a volatile stock, and it could come down a long way, right back down to the lows down here. Who knows? But you just got to be very careful. And as I said, I've been stopped out because I'm a trend follower. The trend has stopped now. I've got out of it. I wait for a new trend to appear before I get into it. That's my strategy. That's my objective, and that's what I do. And I have all the details of my trade plan, which are my stops in place. So Mineral Resources, you need to know exactly what you do and why you do it, why you hold the stock, because you need to have a clear decision-making process that says, yes, I'm going to hold, or no, I'm not. Okay, so Mineral Resources is a real challenge to a lot of people at the moment, and we are seeing some of those metal stocks like BHP, mining stocks, Rio, Woodside, all struggling a bit at the moment. Okay, so that's Mineral Resources. There's plenty of stocks out there in Stockradar for you to have a look at. Go and check the Trading Centre for regular updates on these stocks. Okay, so now what I want to go to is in trading tactics. I'm trying to keep it brief today because I went on too long last week, and I often do. But today I just want to talk briefly about first premises. First premises. Why am I building a trade plan? What am I trying to capitalise? What resonates with me? What do I feel good about? What do I like? This sort of thing. So my first premise is Stockradar. I only buy stocks that are rising. Why do I do that? Because the probabilities say a stock that's rising has a higher probability of being higher next week than lower. Okay, and that's what I like to see. So I never buy stocks that are falling. That's a real trap. Even if it's a buy weakness track, I'm still waiting for that trend reversal to give me that sign that the momentum trigger is going to come off. We're going to get some leverage from the sellers getting out and the buyers getting back in. So I only ever buy stocks that are rising. That is my first premise. I build from there, and build slowly, and build carefully, and build safely, and be smart about it. So common sense principles are a very, very good starting point of your trade plan. Okay. So that first premise of mine is what I live by all the time, okay? So maybe sit down and set a few of your own premises and start your trade plan from there. So what is it that you want to try and do, and how are you going to capitalise on it? And that's really what you're setting out to do. What Stockradar does, we try and educate you, we try and tell you all the pitfalls, we try to make you aware of what you need to know, what you don't need to know, what needs to be in a trade plan, what's a waste of time. So we just try and focus on helping you design, build something. You can follow me if you want to do. Lots of people do, and that's okay. But some people want to do their own stuff, and that's good. So I try and educate people in that area. So why do I set this first premise? Because it will simplify and focus your trade plan. Okay, so what can happen sometimes when you get into building a trade plan, you try and start catering for every little nuance of up and downs, and at that point again is when you need to come right back to your first premise and say, what am I trying to do? Because you're probably just getting too far away from what your first premise is if you're trying to capitalise on every nuance. You can't. Remember, you're going to take 50% losses and 50% profits. You just got to make sure your profits are bigger than your losses and you'll make money. So face the fact that losses will happen, and that's the way the world works. Okay, so that is trading tactics today. I just wanted to focus on you on that one premise to start with and build from there very simply. And you know, some trade plans, whether it be a simple moving average or a simple new high trigger, they're all very simple trade plans and they work. And the biggest impediment to them working is us, because we have biases, we have all sorts of things that are just not compatible with trading the stock market. And I'm going to talk about this in the next few weeks in my newsletter and in YouTube videos, a bit about biases, a bit about how we are wired and why our instincts are often wrong, this sort of thing. Okay, so I will get into that at some stage. Trading stocks, the how-to was what I covered last week. I'm going to try and get into next week biases if I've got time to I want to do this a good job on this one. Biases are an underestimated trading impediment. Many are subconscious, and we are unaware of a lot of these biases we have that make us make certain decisions, and they're the things we have to rewire ourselves, or we build a trade plan that controls us and we must have the discipline to follow it. So there are ways to do it, but you need to recognise these biases as to what they do. Okay, what's happening in Stockradar? I told you last week. Next week I've got the newsletter coming out. Bumper edition this month, lots of new tables and things like that, because I'm going to go away for 2 weeks in May, and you're not going to get any videos for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. There'll be no Stocks Picks on the 22nd, and there'll be a shortened newsletter at the end of next month after our bumper issue this month. Okay, so that's all I've got for you today. Remember, first ideas are often the best, and often we return to them. It's a bit like old girlfriends sometimes, you know. It's sort of weird, but that's how it works. We come back to what we know and what we like. Sorry about that one, little divergence. Often our first trading ideas are the best ones and the ones that resonate. So, you know, if we're saying, well, I like trends, or I like trading ranges, or I like to do this is where you should start and build on, okay? They are often the simplest and the most concise and easiest to follow, okay? As we build, we can get broad in every nuance, as I mentioned before. When you get to that stage, it's time to return to first premises. Focus. We must focus. The picture suddenly will become clearer again, and you know what you're doing again. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoy the market. And make sure there's lots of stocks going up there. Go and have a look at Stockradar. We've got some new stocks in this week, and some ready to rumble by the look of it. So I'm not too worried about the index. It's not my thing. I talk about that because I think you all want to know about it better, but it is really a 20 stock index, and those 20 stocks in that index are not doing so well at the moment, as I mentioned to you before. Okay, so for this week, stay safe, watch your trends, heed your stops, give me a call if you need a chat, and I'll see you all again next week for lots of new insights on the stock market. Okay, bye now.